All right, we'll call the October 1st Property and Finance Committee meeting to order. It's just a little after 4:45 p.m. Alderman Stephen Coates, the chairman of the committee, and just for the beauty and audience at home, we'll go around the rooms and introduce ourselves real quick.
Sue Schill, city attorney.
Jennifer Gossick, city clerk.
Bill Clendenning, County Grand Rapids.
Tom Rome, Alderman 4th District.
Scott Kelly, Alderperson, 3rd District.
Arnie, go ahead.
Ricky Lamp, I'm here for Dollar General.
Arnie Nystrom, Grand Rapids Chairman.
Joe Terry, Director of Public Works.
Tim DeSorsi, Finance.
Shane Blazer, committee member.
All right. First item we have is consider a referral to partner with the town of Grand Rapids to apply for a DOT multi-model local supplement grant to upgrade Washington Street from 48th Street to 80th Street to accommodate truck traffic. Joe, I'm assuming we want to start with you on that one?
Sure. So if you had a chance to take a look at the referral, Washington Street is a shared street. There's a portion of that that's in the city, most of it's in the town. And there is a one-time, at least for now, it's a one-time multimodal grant opportunity that that is allocating funds specifically to incorporated municipalities and unincorporated municipalities, different, same pot, but allocations to each. And the town is looking at applying, and in the application process, it would be very beneficial for the city to partner with the town in order to make that a more competitive application. And seeing that the project is serving Wisconsin Rapids business, I think it's in the city's best interest to partner with the town on that application and and assist administratively in any reasonable way that we can.
See, we have a couple folks here from the town of Grand Rapids. Do you guys want to say anything?
Well, you can, just understand the project, it's a 90-10 project, so you rarely get projects that if they're approved, you're only paid 10%. So this project, as it's being estimated, quite frankly, just got the estimate about 10 minutes ago. Just less than $2 million is the total project. The city share, I think, was in the 6 to 10% range of the 10%, so it's not a large thing. This obviously is a competitive grant program. There's a lot of them, but towns are supposed to be allocated a pot of $29 million with a maximum of $2.9 million, and each district is supposed to receive their share. So basically a grant of this size would be competing with other District 2 DOT areas, which there's not a whole lot of towns that I would expect. This would score very well, in my opinion, based upon the serving the business, the additional truck traffic that is anticipated to be there over the next 3 years. I believe they were telling us as much as 100 trucks a day coming in and out of that facility, Mariani's facility.
Right now it's about 30.
So this would open up a second avenue for them to get truck traffic in. It would, using Washington Street would be the traffic, would be a road that has the least amount of houses on it where they would have interference with home traffic. The town is looking at the possibility of adding a bike lane to the side of it to see if it'll fit. And if it would fit, that would additional points would be scored. There would be extra points scored if the city is working with the town of Grand Rapids. So it is probably one way, if we could get the grant, that this could get done. And I think we don't need to look at, we don't need to turn down an opportunity to just put our best foot forward on this and make an attempt to get it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree with Arnie. This is a local company, and I think this opportunity to help them and also help strengthen the grant application by joining in, and I'll make a motion that we approve.
Okay.
I guess what's the word? To partner with Grand Rapids to apply for the DOT multi-model local supplemental grant.
I'll second. Tom?
Yeah, what's the interesting about a bike lane being added, but what's the plan then, I guess, for this road to look like? I mean, this is a road with two steep ditches, you know, one on each side. It's not a extra wide street to start with, where it is. So what's the plan, I guess, of what's to make this street to be? Is it just to, is it to widen it? Is it to, you know, bring the ditches up? Or what is the game plan? And also, I'd just like to throw in, is where we're at here is, also on there is that the financing, it mentions about Public Works Construction Fund. Again, from my point of view, this, even though finance is where it goes through, is that also it's a Public Works Construction Committee project, is where, to me, it should be looked at. But I guess, to start with, I guess, what is the outlook for the street to be, to look like? And is it, and then with that, is there to connect, add any city services possibly, or anything like that that would, I mean, just, what is the, you know, to apply for the grant and that, and because of the amount of trucks that might be added and that, well, I guess what are we all looking at?
Arnie?
The initial design is calling for 28 feet of pavement. Currently there is 22 feet of pavement. There's enough shoulder area there. We would have two 11-foot driving lanes plus a 3-foot to pave shoulder on the side. We would line it at 11 foot, and there would be a 3-foot on the side, which could be there. We'd like to go more if we can, but we have ditches on both sides, as Tom recognized. The design would be to determine whether we have sand below that or if we have muck. If we have a poor surface, the intention would be to grind the top surface off and remove the first 2 feet of it, bring in breaker rock for the half of it, and then fill it with the rest with road base, get a good drainage surface to it, and then paving at 5 inches thick.
Bill?
I'm Bill Clemente. I'm not representing the town with mine, but could I get a copy of the referral? And just to let you know, none of this has come before the town board, Town of Grand Rapids. I saw it on your minutes, and that's why I'm here. And this is all new to me. I would like the town board to meet on this and then meet with the city if we agree to it, you know, to go into it. I've been asking on the internet with Arnie on it, and I'm quite surprised that it's from 48th Street to 80th Street. Because when we met to go over this $3 million or $2.9 million, we had it going from 64th Street to 80th Street.
That's incorrect.
And, well, that's what I can probably show you that in minutes. But anyway, so it's what this will do with the congestion of going out on 80th Street, going to Highway 54. With that 80th Street and Highway 54 connection, now you're going to have semis, and a number of them, trying to get at that intersection to go west. You know, causing another problem. I mean, I think we got a problem at 54 and 48th Street. You know, we own from 54, we own up until the railroad tracks, then you own a portion, and then we own a portion. And I would have liked to see this come before our boards.
I'd like to respond if I could, just clear the record on 17th of September. We met as a special group. We talked about the project. The board approved me going out and getting costs for this project from 48th all the way to 80th. And then we as the board were considering using town funds to do 48th Street to where we meet the city and upgrade that portion of the road too. So that's what it is, and you can correct some other things. Sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that 80th Street's also a county trunk highway. And so having truck movements on Highway 54 onto a county trunk highway is completely appropriate. In the meetings that we had with representatives from the municipalities and Mariani, Mariani's preferred route is from their facility east to 80th Street. I think there's benefits going either way, but this is a unique opportunity. By no means does the city's agreement, if there's a second and this motion gets passed, to necessarily, commit to anything other than supporting the reconstruction of eventually a road that the city owns a portion of, right? At 10% of the actual cost. I think this is a great opportunity if, and it's to support the town in their grant application. If the town board decides, we're just not gonna go after this particular grant at this time, that's okay, right? I mean, our motion here would be to support them. When it comes time to construction, you're talking, a few tens of thousands of dollars. You're not talking a lot of money for the city's contribution here. And at the end of the day, it is a city business, and we've had a number of entertaining conversations about whose responsibility really is it. It's a town road. It's a city business. This is a great opportunity to develop a win-win relationship on a project that otherwise could be contentious, I think. So, I hope the committee can move forward.
Do you have something?
I'm ready to vote.
I just had a question. Now, Tom had mentioned that this is coming from the Public Works Construction Fund as well too. Is that?
Well, that's where the if the project is awarded, it has to go through the budget process, and these types of construction projects are funded through our Public Works Construction Fund. So if the project's awarded and we haven't allocated those funds towards it, we have to do a budget amendment if the council wanted to then proceed with construction. I'm trying to remember what the timeline is on this. I think the review's in early 2020.
Yeah, the applications are December 6th, and then it looked like it was 2020 to 2025 to build.
For build. So there's some design work that has to take place. I mean, there's plenty of time to dot the i's and cross the t's.
So, just to recap, the action here then is to work with Grand Rapids to apply for the grant at this point in time. That's all we're doing, is we're gonna make a motion to apply for the grant.
Right.
To get the funds, and then we're not looking to have this, actually do anything till 2025.
Between 2020 and 2025.
Between 2020 and 2025. So, for some of the other concerns that have been brought up here, there's plenty of time then to address those concerns, and if either party, be it the town of Grand Rapids or the city of Wisconsin Rapids, if something doesn't seem right, then there's a time for either party to say we're not interested in this grant anymore, and back out of it at that time.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's what,
No, go ahead.
and that was what my motion was, to approve applying for the grant with them.
Okay,
And I think you seconded it.
yes. We have a motion and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion from anyone? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3 is review and consider for approval an agreement between the city of Wisconsin Rapids and CAP Services Incorporated for administration of the city's Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, revolving loan fund. Tim, I think it sounds like your department.
It does. Just a little history is that, years and years back that, we had this, we applied for community development funds and got this, and we actually, in-house, we had staff that administered that loan, and that's basically what you're doing is you're making no interest loans to qualifying individuals to fix up various aspects of their housing, whether it be weatherization, windows, siding, things of that nature. And basically, it's a loan that stays on the books. It's not due and payable until they either vacate the residence or sell, the residence. So, but then over the years, those funds shrunk down to where the activity didn't justify the paying for the internal staff to do this. So we partnered with CAP Services to administer this. So they basically take in the applications process, work with coordinate with the contractors, pay the contractors and things for us, and they would charge 5% of the repayment of the loans, that the money coming in and your repayment. So basically, as the loans are paid off, the money comes back into the fund and it's loaned back out. We got a request from them that, from the state of Wisconsin, that they're authorized to collect up to 15%. And based on their analysis, I don't know if you read the email that was attached to the referral, and basically their internal auditing, whatever, says that they're actually losing money on the staff time dedicated to this. So they are proposing a new agreement, which would be, it's basically a 1-year agreement where each side of the party can get out with 90 days notice that increase that from 5% to 15% administration fees. So at 5%, based on revenues that we collected in 2018 of $155,000, their admin fee for the whole, to administer the whole program was $7,777, which probably for the amount of work that they do doesn't come close. And so increasing it to 15%, that administrative fee would be $23,000. Now, obviously, if loans don't get paid off, money doesn't come in, they don't get paid. So they're only really getting compensated when money's coming in, and it makes sense because if money comes in, then obviously they're going to work at loaning that back out, which is requires staff time.
And these are not city tax dollars either, so that
Nope,
that
this is
$23,000 is coming from money that's been granted to the city.
Basically, it's the revolving loan.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
paid, it's an eligible expense of the loan, so these are all CDBG grant funds, and
I just want to make it aware that people,
Right.
that's not
Right.
tax dollars that are,
and,
this is.
for the 23,000, even at the 23,000 to internally administer that, because they also do all the satisfactions.
Mhm.
There's a subordination, people want to subordinate, because they want to refinance their primary mortgage on us. They process all that paperwork, so there is and they do all the reporting to the state on our behalf, so, and issue the 1099s to the contractors and such, so there's a lot of work involved that probably definitely for the 7,000 it was, but I don't think the 23,000 is that unreasonable. When
I was a clerk, I worked with them quite a bit, and I think Michael and I applied for the last big grant. And, but yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve raising that to 15%. That's the correct motion.
Or just to accept the agreement.
Yeah,
Or
to accept the agreement with CAP Services.
Yes.
I will second that. Is there any further discussion from anyone? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 4 is review and consider for approval a contract with Quest Engineering for wetland delineation at 4401 Commerce Drive. That's on page 9 is where it starts. Tim, are we?
I think this was Adam's request.
Yep.
Yes, the short type listed here.
Adam and Joe.
From my understanding, when he talked to me about it, is that triangle portion, approximately 40 acres in Rapids East Commerce Center, because I think that the brush has grown up in there, that the state in their updated map showed that as potential wetlands. And it doesn't mean it's wetlands, but they just say if the environment of the soils are conducive to becoming wetlands, then they basically put that down as wetlands. So basically what this would do is the delineation would say this is not wetlands, we can have its own, because obviously we do not want that parcel to have any wetland designation to it because it's a marketable piece of property. So basically, if you remember, we had done that with the certified surveys or certified site, we had did the delineation, so this is just doing that because this all of a sudden popped up on the DNR's, or state of Wisconsin, I think it's a DNR wetland map, so we just want to get that delineation done so that we can say that it's not.
And this, to do this, that's for the $4,593.42.
And we're not, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Shane.
I want to cut you off, and we're not unable to do this in-house?
I'm not sure what's all involved with the wetland delineation.
I'm all for at least supporting a local firm, but I didn't know if we could handle this in-house or time or.
No.
I can see.
Was Joe up there today?
He was, I'm gonna grab him.
Yeah, if you could.
Hey, Joe,
Thank you.
we want you to finance. Getting summoned.
Exactly.
What number are we on?
We're on item
The
4.
wetland.
Oh, you want me to talk about that one?
He just gave us an update. We're just wondering about if the potential, or, you know, I'm in favor, especially it's a local engineering firm, but is it something that we should be able to handle in-house, or time-wise, or workloads, can't
Good
get it
question.
done, or?
Thinking if we had talked about that or not. Quest did the last one for us on the property
Site?
across the street, yeah. And I don't know if we ever talked about it being done in-house. I don't know if it's a capability, I mean, it is a matter of time, I think, of doing that. So, it'd be
Yeah.
in anticipation of hopefully going through probably the certified site process again, even though that's not quite to the same size of parcel. Yeah, what was it was 40?
It's 4,500. 4,600.
And they might require an independent kind of instead of us just saying,
that's
oh yeah, there's nothing here.
The owners of the property approving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just didn't, you know, just all these, as I've said previous meetings, you know, we hire a lot of engineering things out, and obviously there's specialty things where it doesn't make sense to have on staff.
And I think that was from what Joy said or Adam had looked at, that was probably the most cost effective one to do, as opposed to using some of the other firms that were
Yep.
yeah, probably not in town and that.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a local business, and I'll approve paying or hiring Quest Engineering for $4,593.42 to complete the paperwork for the wetland delineation on Commerce Drive.
I will second. Did you still want to wait for Joe Terry to come clarify that, or?
I'm not sure if he was actually involved in any of the discussion, frankly, so.
All right, we do have a motion and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I will add that, and Metalco folks told us today that one of the, actually the site guy told us the one thing that made that site very interesting is it was clean, it was cleared. Like it was, you could see the site, and there wasn't any prep to clear it either, so it was kind of interesting that, anyway, just an anecdote about that process and how perhaps, important it'll be to, then, next step would be to clear it, right, and get the trees and the grub out of there, because it's really, really thick. If you checked it out lately, it's a lot of tree cover back in there again, hence why I think the DNR indicated it was wetland and, potentially wetland again.
We have a motion and second on the floor. Hearing no further discussion, committee will vote. All in favor? Did you? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 5 is a 2020 budget update. Tim?
Well, you had sent an email proposing some thoughts in terms of a process related to last year's discussion, I think at the public hearing or the adoption of the budget. So I guess in terms of setting that aside for a minute and talking about updates, we've got a few outstanding requests that we're working through, and Tim and I are going to have met on them yet this week. So at that point, we'll have all the requests in. They were due some time ago, but we're still working through a few of them. And so I guess I would ask, one would be what you're anticipating your process to look like. I propose that we give a presentation that just kind of give high-level aspects on debt, tax rate, levy limits, expenditure restraint, maybe kind of the controlling factors as it relates to the budget preparation as an option. I'm happy to do that whenever the committee wants to meet to review that. Otherwise, it's in pretty near final form, I would say, at this stage of the game.
Well, I want to be the guy to go through, the major departments and projects and public works, protective services, just to kind of go through, see what the wish lists are. And I don't think there's any major projects going on next year, so at least and talk about what road, just maybe talk a little bit more detail on what we might be approving in the budget. and ultimately the effect on the mill rate.
I think the point you raise about what we're approving in the budget, generally the process has been to approve allocations of certain replacement accounts, right? The last
Yep,
couple of
yep.
requests that have come
Yep.
before the council, I think Tim and I would like to know a flavor of if it's being approved through the budget and we're allocating certain expenditures, is there a threshold, or is everything gonna come to the council? Right now, we approve a threshold, and then we bring those requests to the council throughout the year, and I think particularly all person Blazer is concerned, we should be putting this through the budget process. So I think we just want to make sure that departments are actually including those requests in their budget requests, and generally they have not in the past, when it's been kind of the incidentals, whether it's room tax, and include a couple of requests around room tax allocations, some replacement cycle type capital purchases,
Yeah.
furniture and that kind of thing. So I guess to get a sense of what the committee and the council would prefer the process to look like for that too would be beneficial.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I don't think we don't need to know how many reams of paper need to be purchased next year, but especially in the clerk's office. But yeah, I'd just like a little detail on debt and what we're looking at purchasing.
Sure.
Or just,
Yeah, I mean,
hey, it's time to replace this fire truck or replace
Yeah.
this city equipment, just so it's a heads up. But
Yeah, and so then basically what we could probably, whatever I could put together is just kind of like, obviously we know our operating budgets, those are pretty easy for you
Yeah.
to look at and know what's going on. I mean,
We have
a lot of the
bills.
operating budgets don't change.
Right.
But for some of those ones, especially in the street department where, sometimes the priorities, we can highlight some of those items in there, and then obviously for the capital outlay, we could definitely put some of that together. Some reform where, okay, this is what's, being purchased in the police outlay, fire outlay, and their various replacement accounts and things like that. And maybe some of the allocations for room tax and things like that, so I think.
yeah, I just want that opportunity as last year, $1,000 in the police department. I want us to be able to at least get some of our priorities in there where it may be outside of staff's priorities, and that might be a priority for us or not. And at least we need an opportunity to present that, or if it's easier to come in and say, I would like to see something like this, or I don't want to derail the budget process and have a crazy budget meeting like last time, but I just, we have priorities too, and I just want to make sure some of those are looked at, addressed.
Well, again, if there's some that you want to pre-send, if
Right.
there are,
I don't have a list or anything.
Yeah, but if you have thought of things that,
Yeah.
ordinance control is, ebbed and flowed in its popularity. That's just an example of one that maybe
Yep.
you're thinking about. It'd be helpful to, that way we can have these
And I don't want to stand at the table and argue that we need to get a new lawnmower, but I'm gonna, if we're not gonna mow the expressway hill because we don't have the proper lawnmower to mow it, then maybe we need to buy one.
Sure.
And, I'm not gonna get on my lawnmower tangent here with the expressway hill again. Save that for Public Works, Mr. Kubaschak.
That's later.
That's later, exactly. But just some of those, where I think that,
And if you remember last year, some of those items like the body cams,
yep,
I think it was the fire
That's
station
done very
remodel,
fast, yep.
which now we've authorized the study, which is undergoing right now.
Good.
So once we get that results back, we'll evaluate that. But if you remember, those items weren't necessarily allocated in the actual 2019 budget.
2019, we're using
I remember
carryover
in
funds.
2020 or 2019 budget. But if you remember, when we had that carryover resolution, we looked at where we're saying if we have some surplus funds or if we have a good operating year, that's when we allocated those funds and put those to fund those initiatives.
I guess my concern is if, so I want it in the budget so we don't have to operate under an if.
But sometimes putting it in the budget, you're like, okay, then how is it funded if?
And then we have to cut somewhere else.
Right.
Which
That's
I'm
fine.
good
I just-
with.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
yep, but I think
Right.
I don't want to say council gets the leftover of any carryover to do what we want either,
Oh, no, I'm just saying as an example of like,
Yeah.
sometimes looking back at those carry forwards and saying, okay, is there something that maybe, maybe we didn't anticipate everything else and something in November, December, pops out, or in January, like, oh, yeah, that's the type of stuff that we look at. Because, the budget isn't a static document per se.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's some flexibility. You're saying, I think at this point in time, this is what we estimate we're gonna do, but priorities change, and that's when you do budget amendments and reevaluate some of those priorities.
Yeah, but if we can get them in
Yep.
now,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'd rather identify it
More you
now
can get
instead of-
in,
It's
it's
clear,
better, but.
and then I can't sit here and argue that it's not in the budget and we can't
Right.
do it,
Right.
I just.
Or it was taken out without council. I mean, I think
Right.
that's
Just
the
the
point
thought
we
of-
make
yeah,
sure
just kinda-
everyone has a crack at.
Right.
Open, and about it, and
Yep.
not that it isn't, but I just wanna, I don't wanna get, hey, we got the leftovers, so. You know, well, realistically, cause I'll be the first one to, and if it comes into next year and I think of something, I'm not gonna be a big fan of even myself saying, hey, I wanna do this even though it's not budgeted. I don't think that's part of the budgeting process.
Tim, do you have those books on the, that you put together, the budgets like you have in years past?
Nope.
Well, that's the trouble, because we switched to Munis,
Munis.
right? And so everything is an expenditure basis, but we did ask departments, historically, let's use training and education, for example, right? That's in public safety, that's a substantial investment. We've asked them to use that same process, identify what those pieces are. So we're working with departments to create a cover sheet, basically, which would account for what detail was previously in next to those financial estimates, basically, for if it's conferences or training and education or
And you can't line item those out in Munis?
Well, no, we're gonna have
Yeah.
budget reports, it's
Right,
just not
but
gonna be what the previous one was. you know.
worksheets that
Okay.
Tim
Right.
basically
I mean, there's
built
one that
for
you can
Excel.
print where there is some
I didn't
detailed
know.
explanation.
Okay, I wasn't
So,
sure
you know,
if the fire department didn't, or the expense, or how you enter those expenses, if it was a number, or if you could list fire academy X,
Right,
or
basically, yeah.
police, whatever.
Both. Ideally is both. We've asked them, these are areas where you shouldn't just put numbers. You should put some activity that you expect. And
Yeah.
like PD, we asked them to go back and revisit that to make sure that those numbers reflect what they plan to do versus, we'll put a number to it, or we have all this list of
Just in
conferences.
case.
Yeah, right. Just to be able to have a full, honest, and upfront conversation.
Are those worksheets currently available then, or?
Yeah, they should be completely updated but then once they're updated, I can print some
Put them together,
reports
that's it.
and put them together, but basically it's by either department or org, so it's, I'll go through and I can assemble and combine it into a PDF.
Okay.
That hopefully will have an index where you can look, and basically the report will be, you'll have the line items in the department budget, with last year's budget, and then you'll have this year's budget request, and then if we hit the detail line item, if they put in an explanation, that'll print underneath the line item. It's, so you'll get some of that detail, it just won't be, look like the other one, it'll be a little bit different look to it, but we'll definitely be getting that to you.
Because just
Sounds good.
kind of what my thought process is I'd like something to go out to members of council,
Mhm.
all members of council, so they can take a look at it. And then I'd like to find a time where we can have a special property and finance committee meeting just solely dedicated to the budget. And then that way, if anyone on council has any concerns with anything that they see in the budget, we can talk about it at that point in time, and hopefully by the time we're ready to vote on the budget at the November council meeting, anything that's a potential concern in the budget will have been addressed and hopefully resolved, so we have a budget that's ready to go on the night we vote on it. Then that's kind of what my thoughts are, where I'd like to go with it.
Multiple meetings?
Multiple if we have to, but if we can get it done in one, it'd be great too.
Yeah, so you'll get the Munis PDF version, the budget and stuff like that, but then also provide some just summary data that kind of, some highlights what we talked about, like maybe the outlet requests, some of the major, initiatives or, changes to any departmental budgets and things like that. And then obviously, some, levy limit information, debt information, tax rate information, so you'll kind of get kind of more of a summary overview, and then you'll get the detail that you can look through at your pleasure.
We've challenged departments to come up with what are the measurable activities that the public or the council or I or anyone else would care about, right? So if we just take DPW and street maintenance, for example, like maybe we take chip sealing activities, what's the extent that we plan to do that activity and perhaps where? Our capital improvements plan is only as good as if it's actually our working document, that we're actually using that as we go about and maintain our streets and other infrastructure. So I know GIS and IT have been working to take that information from what's planned in 2020 and put some graphical information so you can actually see it versus just numbers on a page. Because Munis is going to give you numbers, and that gives you only a narrow snapshot of actually what the department plans to do. So trying to give some more life to that budget document that everyone can say, oh, okay, this is what the city plans to do this next year, is what the departments plan to do. And certainly for, any additional requests, incorporating those in there too. But that's something that we're working on, and I know IT has been, in addition to the Munis implementation, has been trying to take on this priority too. So I know they're working with some departments in that.
Another thing I talked about with the budget, I know I said it last year at council about having the public hearing prior to the council meeting, like having it a week before. I mean, since we're just kind of doing an update on the budget, what are some thoughts about doing something like that this year, where we have the public meeting a little ways out before the council meeting? So, because last year the budget, there were some concerns brought up at the council meeting, and then we were basically in a position where we were almost gonna have to rework the budget, and then there was concern about that, about having the budget into the county on time so they could do the tax assessment notices. I mean, is that something we can do to move the public hearing up on that, or?
I know we talked about it at the last year's public hearing or November council meeting. I know Attorney Schill, you had some comments about whether, to the extent that you have a public hearing, and what public input you can take after the public hearing, just by nature of a public hearing. But we can have the public hearing whenever we wish. It's just
Right.
what input you take from the public, I think, is probably the bigger concern.
Right, and if I recall, you actually did, pass a motion to do that, to have the public hearing prior to the date that you were voting on it. And I think that's, I guess then the question is, then when you have your regular meeting after the public hearing, then, are you still entertaining members of the public to come and speak to it or not? I guess just to be clear on the process and let everybody knows what it is.
So when you have the public hearing, it's the public hearing, and then there's not going to be a public input session necessarily at the council adoption. There's council debate, of course, but public input at that point would have happened at the public hearing, is what I'm interpreting that to say. Is that fair? What you're saying, basically?
Go ahead.
Well, my other concern is, at what point is the council say that we don't want to do this, Because I think the big debate was last year was the balcony or the overhang. And I think you had asked us to send it to council so the whole council can consider it, when we were chomping at the bit maybe to kill it in finance. Then we get to the council and then we debate it, and now, Steve, we're getting kind of too late to do this. So you kind of feel, when, I'm sorry to say Steve, but your concern was we needed to pass this and we can't hold up the process. So at that point, you almost feel pigeonholed. So you can't, if we want to take it out, we really wasn't the point to do it, because you have to rework the budget. But during the budget process, if we were looking at taking it out, well, then the whole council isn't really discussing it, because the whole council wasn't present at those finance meetings. So that's where I kind of get stuck, as, obviously I believe when we get to the council in the public hearing, that's our final document. We really shouldn't be debating it at that point. We should have taken place, and if we only have one meeting, it's probably going to be the least amount of meetings that finance has ever had regarding a budget. So that's my concern. I just don't want it to get kind of jammed through. But at what point do we have these discussions on if there's something we want to change or add, or a project, or because we can't wait till council. It's got to be done by then. Or if there's public input, really they should be coming to a budget meeting because they are public. Or they should contact their alderperson. One person who wants something done maybe isn't, I don't know if we want to list a list of requests at every meeting either, though, but at some point there has to be that point where council members can not be interested in doing a project and not wait till the budget hearing or during the council meeting. And that's my struggle, is at what point does that happen? Because we don't really have that point. So that's just my concern going into it this time. Just a thought, even though I don't think this budget's gonna be as complicated as last year's, or at least projects, or maybe things that might be contentious, or I think we're past that, hopefully, or at least for a little bit. That's all I got.
The only thing I'd say from a scheduling standpoint, Public Works Director is planning to be out on an extended period of time during this process, so I think we'd wanna schedule public works sooner rather than later. So perhaps if we do a presentation that's just, I mean, really short, like, hey, here's the budget, here's sort of the parameters we prepared the budget under, you get this stuff in advance, then Public Works maybe would present Public Works construction projects, and then you'd maybe ask questions in that, at that particular meeting, if I could offer that suggestion at least, and then, you know, whatever you guys want to decide for meetings and that from there.
So if we did that, I mean, Joel's leaving next week Tuesday, so
Yeah,
we'd have to
and I don't know, is he out of town? I haven't heard that.
just that extended vacation.
Okay.
We'll see what we can,
I mean, perhaps he'd be willing to come in and facilitate that. I mean, certainly the staff would be available if they're not already committed to present and be a part of that too, but I would think he would want to participate. So,
Tim, you were gonna say something?
Oh, if we're gonna move up the public hearing, I just need to know that date, because we have to publish that notice 15 days prior to the date of the meeting.
Okay.
So that's just put that, because usually I know it's at the council on the third Tuesday, but if we're gonna move that up, I just need to know so I get the publication in on time.
All right. Anything else on the 2020 budget for update?
you're planning on being out next week too, in terms of scheduling, right? I mean, you're available, but in terms of scheduling purposes, just to give some thought to when and where staff are at too.
Anything else? All right, we will move on to item number 6, which is consider an ordinance to amend section 22.09, para 2, para B of the Wisconsin Rapids Code to increase the quota or eliminate the quota for Class A beer retail licenses. The current quota is 25. You want to change?
I guess, probably, I don't know if they want to talk, but my thought is, and we have Dollar General here too, and I think at this point in what I feel is fairness, and I'm going to say the same thing about the next item, so I'll just say it now, is that I think we should eliminate the quota system. You know, if every gas station in town or any business that's able to legally sell beer or intoxicating liquor or liquor license, that we should have a quota system. Because if we do have a quota now we're setting an unfair advantage to one gas station over another gas station. And I don't think we should be in the business of that. Just my thoughts. I'm up for getting rid of a quota.
I would agree. Just another thing though too, there's so many like craft brewery places, you know, smaller breweries popping up now too, and if you're placing a quota on these, that potentially inhibits somebody's ability to start like a craft brewery in the town.
And this is only for retail sales, so it'd be gas stations, not for like consumptions and things like that. It's just for the sale.
So you're right, it's a Class A, so it's consumed off premises, so grocery stores, gas stations, convenience stores. So, and we currently have issued 23 of those licenses, and just a reminder that this is a municipal quota, not a state quota. The state does not have a quota on either of the Class A licenses, so this is something that's in our ordinances, so.
Anyone else?
I'm probably just gonna oppose it, so I'm just gonna
I feel like you're giving
say
like
that for now.
businesses that have like the liquor license, you're giving them a greater opportunity to improve the business, but also hurt the businesses that do not have one. My store is a Dollar General store manager, does not have a liquor licenses, and my sales are below the other store, and we have two different like, not like quotas, but like Grant has this side of town over here that they focus on, and then my store's on the other side, so people don't want to drive all the way over to one store to buy the liquor. If we could get rid of the quota, more people, it'd be like access greater people, so they don't have to go outside of their way to get it.
And that's my argument, is that it sets a level playing field for everybody, which I think is important in business.
Jennifer?
And just to clarify, so Dollar General has 2 stores one store has both Class A beer and Class A liquor, and the other one can only apply, and I think that's your store on 8th Street,
Yeah.
can only apply for Class A beer because we are over the quota on Class A liquor. And we have a gas station as well that is in that same situation where they have 2 gas stations. One can only have a beer, and the other one has beer and liquor, so.
Tom, you said you were gonna oppose that. I was just wondering, is there a reason why? Is safety concerned, or?
I guess by getting rid of it, there's just, you know, obviously there's no quota. It's open-ended, proliferate wherever, basically. You know, I come from way back when grocery stores didn't sell liquor. You went to a liquor store to get your liquor and beer. That's how far back I go. And it seems to me that some of our problems may have come about because of the proliferation of places where it can be purchased. So I know that's become, I guess, the accepted norm way of operating in that, and I understand what Shane's saying. I understand what is being said over here, the gentleman for Dollar General. So it's, I just said I'll probably oppose it at the council floor. It's not, I guess, maybe necessarily a 100% thing that I would, but at this point in time, I have reservations about getting rid of the quota system.
No, and I wanted to know if there was something that, like, a safety concern or an underlying concern, something that we should take into consideration on it. I think one thing with the licenses though is that as the council, we kind of have a check and balance to it. Like if you do grant a beer or liquor license to somebody and there's problems that constantly come from that place of selling to minors or outright violations of the license, we also have the same authority not to renew that license then too. So I think on that, you know, where Shane says we level the playing field, that's a good thing. But then also as a council, we have the power to make sure that there's a check and balance and that's in there, that the businesses are doing what they should be doing. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we amend the ordinance to, I'll start with item 6, is amend the ordinance 22.092B to eliminate the Class A retail beer license quota.
I will second. We have a motion and second. Is there any other further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item number 7 is consider an ordinance to amend section 23.08 para 1 of the municipal code to increase the quota or eliminate the quota of Class A retail liquor licenses. The current quota is 20. I'm going to assume that the same discussion that we just had around item 6 would apply to item 7. I'll go ahead and make a motion to eliminate the quota for Class A retail liquor licenses.
Oh, I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I just wanted to point out that you still, have the opportunity to deny a license just because you feel there's too many. Even if you don't have a quota, so there's always that, you can still have reasons to deny even if someone requested an additional license. I understand that you could revoke, but I'm just saying you can decide, not to even give a license, so.
And also, I think too, the police chief, if it's like a small business owner, they still go through the same thing,
Right.
the background check a
Yes.
person, so the police chief can also recommend a license denied too if he wants.
Right. And then maybe another thing that I can mention that Jennifer and I are working on is as part of the, and hopefully for January 1, would be July 1 would be the new licenses, but to to basically, well, it'll be for a new license, so it wouldn't be July 1. To actually have a business plan and what are you doing, have a more robust, because we have the opportunity to actually have a nice checklist of things for people to put together in addition to just filling out the state license form. And a lot of times people are wondering, well, what are they doing, or why are they serving food, and so have a more robust application in addition to the state license so that you're better prepared to consider the license and what it is they're doing, so hopefully that's another project.
Yep. We're working on that one.
Well, it's help answer questions like the future agenda item that on this
Yeah.
agenda, some of that stuff would be a little bit more, we would be more aware of those things up front. Okay.
All right, is there any further discussion? We have a motion second on the floor, hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 8 is consider a temporary Class B and consider a temporary Class B beer and Class B wine license for the Central Wisconsin Cultural Center located at 320 West Grand Avenue, Suite 104, for an Art on Tap fundraiser to be held October 19th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second. Is there any other further discussion on this item? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 9 is consider a request from Justin
That's
Tritz,
one.
agent, on behalf of the Bees Cage LLC, doing business as Bees Cage, located at 3039 State Highway South, for a Class B beer license, and we're gonna table this item and move on from it and bring it back next month. Item number 10 is consider a request from
Steve, could I just ask that we have more, that I would like to have more information on what this,
Oh, why we're tabling it?
not necessarily why we're tabling it, but just more information of what actually this place is to be.
Right, and that's one of the reasons that we're tabling it.
As I read this several times,
Right,
it kept,
right.
different things were going through my mind of what I was coming up with,
Right.
and
So, yeah, so do you have some questions, or do you want me to just talk about what the
What-
business is?
Well, what do we know so far about it?
So, what we know so far is that this business is in the old NYSEB Columbus building, and they have a restaurant on one part of it, and then the other part is rented out currently to a wrestling club. And so the parents can sit in the restaurant while their kids practice their wrestling. They can sit in the restaurant, and they already serve food. They want to be able to serve beer to those parents. But there are certain things that need to happen, state regulations, in order to be able to issue that license. It is a wrestling club, but then there's the, what is the state's definition of a club, and we're working through that. They presented it as a rec center, but in asking more questions, it's not really a rec center. A rec center is usually publicly owned or public access to it. So we're getting more details about it, because currently, I can't recommend this for approval based on the information that I've gained basically this week,
Yeah.
so.
The application as is presented would not, I think the reading of it would not qualify for a
Right.
license. So I think
Okay, yeah.
we just need to
And
get some more
yeah.
information from him and
Yes.
determine whether there's any situation in which it could happen, but as it is now, it wouldn't have a license, so.
Right.
Mhm.
We'll talk with him and see if there's, if there's a road to somehow get that, then that might be in front of you, or else he might just, it might not be any way to make it happen, so.
You know this guy?
All right, Tom, does that
I know this
answer
guy.
questions
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, I just wanted, I guess.
Yeah, more reasons,
Now
right,
it's fine, I mean, a
exactly,
little bit,
right,
but I guess,
right.
could
Well, my
to
original
support something, I
understanding.
needed something different than what I.
Sure. My original understanding of the application was different than when I started asking a few more questions, so.
All right, and we will come back to this next month then. Item number 10 is consider a request from Nicole Grafenhagen, agent, on behalf of Dalgen Corp., Limited Liability Corporation, doing business as Dollar General Store, number 21068 located at 820 8th Street South for a Class A beer license. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Okay, I will second. Is there any other further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 11 is audit of the bills. Those were in our packet. Did you have a chance to,
Yeah, I kind of cruised through them.
anything?
Nothing kind of really blew up at me.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve paying of the bills.
You got the numbers, Tim?
Actually, I think in the agenda items from now on, we'll actually include that.
Yeah, I might make it all zip.
Check number 600 to 1026, I believe my memory serves.
I will make a motion to pay the bills numbers, check numbers through 600 to 1026.
And I'll second it.
All right. Is there any other further discussion on audit of the bills? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 12 is our beverage operator licenses. We've reviewed those. None were recommended denied by the police chief. I will make a motion to approve the beverage operator licenses.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. And our next item is to set our meeting date for November. And it looks like our first Tuesday in November will be the 5th. And we started at 4:45 today, and it looks like we're gonna end at 5:45, so I mean, it seemed to work for the sake of Public Works. Do we want to stick with the 4:45 time then?
Works for me.
All right, we're gonna go November 5th at 4:45 PM for our next Property and Finance Committee meeting. Item number 14 is adjournment.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
All second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. And we stand adjourned at 5:44 PM.
Most dated next week.